Join Forum IAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hi, my name is Krishnan. I'll be doing the Hindi news analysis for the day. These are the topics taken up for discussion, and towards the end we'll analyze previous year questions. So the first article is about 14 states not willing to join or delaying the new education scheme. So let us see what this article is about. So what has happened? Kerala, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal are among the 14 states and union territories which are not signing a memorandum of understanding. So what is that memorandum of understanding? So the Union Education Ministry, that is the central government, it is mandating the implementation of national education policy. So only when they sign this MOU, they'll get funds worth 13,000 crore for the next 3 years. Using this, they'll have to implement the national education policy. But these 14 states are not willing to sign it. So let us see why they are not doing it. First, what they are telling, this 40% of the, there's a new scheme called as PM Usha. We'll analyze, we'll see what it is. But according to the, if you want to implement a national education policy, right, you'll have to do it along with PM Usha. So what these states are telling it, 40% of the funds required for PM Usha will be borne by the state themselves. So which means no extra funds will be given for these states for doing the national new education policy reforms. So this 40% fund which should be given by the state, that is the main first problem. But what the center is telling, okay, we know there are certain differences, we'll hold discussions, we are having discussions, we'll come out with a solution for this. So what is this PM Usha? It is the new name for the ministry's scheme to improve the quality of higher education in state universities. So it is focusing on higher education and it is focusing on states universities. So what they are doing, curricular change, program change, teacher training, physical and digital infrastructure, accreditation, enhancing employability. At the same time, they'll also ensure the equity, that is SCs, STs, OBCs are also able to be a part of it, access and inclusion. So as we saw, for the next 3 years, they'll be providing 13,000 crore. And why should you sign a MOU? That is very common, right? It is signed to show the willingness of the states and UTs to participate in the scheme, and it will help the better implementation of the scheme. So as on date, 22 states and UTs have signed, and he's telling progress has been, discussions are going on in the 14 remaining states. So what the chairperson, co-vice chairperson of PM Usha, that is the new scheme, what he is saying is, if the scheme comes into implementation, it has the scope to adapt to the different needs of different states and even different districts. So he's telling you can customize education. So what you might need a different education in a hilly area, in a district itself. You might need a different type of education in a plain. So he's telling this PM Usha will cater to those needs. But what states are telling, if you have to do NEP reforms, we need more funds. The memorandum of understanding will make it mandatory for the states to do reforms wherein administrative, academic accreditation, governance reforms, which are detailed in the education policy. There's something, the new education policy talks about something called as academic credit bank, entry and exit flexibility, e-governance platform. So all these have irked some state governments. So as we already saw, to do this, to implement this PM Usha scheme, 40% of the expenses should be borne by the states. And for this, to implement NEP, states need more funds and aid from the center. But the memorandum of understanding which the center is asking the states to sign, it does not talk about all these things. So they are telling will not sign it, and like-minded states like Kerala, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, they are all discussing and they are seeing what we can do about this. So the the co-vice chairperson is telling the same thing. He's telling we are doing multiple consultations, and even before coming up with the structure of PM Usha, we undertook a lot of consultations. So what is this memorandum of understanding is about? It is about proper planning, implementation, and monitoring of the scheme. And what the state should do, they should commit to this planning and drafting. What the state should do, they should align their planning and drafting with new education policy. So if you do that, new education policy and PM Usha will be integrated. So finally, what the UGC chairman is telling, this PM Usha carries forward the vision of the earlier Rashtriya Uच्चतर Shiksha Abhiyan. So this RUSA only has now become PM Usha. So, this RUSA also was a scheme to improve the access, equity, and quality of higher education in states. So PM Usha basically does what? It reduces the fragmentation of resources by streamlining the number of scheme components to 6. Earlier it was a lot. Now they have rationalized it. So what is telling? PM Usha is giving more flexibility to undertake activities as per their needs, and unit cost of some components have been rationalized for tangible outcomes. So this is what I said earlier. And states and union territories have also been given flexibility to identify their focus districts. So it is up to the states to focus on districts that they want to put more focus. So if a state feels that in a particular district the gross enrollment ratio is low, gender parity is not good, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes are not getting the benefits, then they are telling this scheme gives them the leverage to customize the scheme. So what they're saying, so these districts will be prioritized under this scheme. So this is a good thing, right? So this is how PM Usha is different from RUSA. So let us see what this RUSA scheme was. It was a centrally sponsored scheme to fund states, institutions. With that, what they'll do, they'll attain higher level of access, equity, and excellence in the state higher education system with greater efficiency, transparency, accountability, and responsiveness. So the first phase of the scheme was launched in 2013, and second phase was launched in 2018. Now the new education policy, that is the national education policy, has come. So RUSA scheme has been launched as Pradhan Mantri 𝐒𝐡𝐻 Shiksha Abhiyan. So what is this PM Usha? We already saw this. It's a centrally sponsored scheme of the government of India. This will be executed through the Ministry of Education. So what this scheme aims to work, we already saw 300 higher education institutions, including states, universities, affiliated colleges, and they'll focus on raising the quality of education. So what are the key objectives? That also we saw: improve access, equity, and quality in higher education through planned development of higher education at state level. And what are the objectives? Create new academic institutions, expand and upgrade the existing ones, develop institutions that are self-reliant in terms of quality education, professionally managed, and characterized by greater inclination towards research, and provide students with education that is relevant to them as well as the nation as a whole. So this is the primary objective of this scheme. Now let us move on to the next article. This is an interesting article, and from Mains perspective also this is very important. So let us see what this article talks about. So basically what it's telling is you've seen these demolition drives, right? Let's say that there was a rape accused in Madhya Pradesh, and his house was demolished, and it's happening everywhere. So the same thing happened in Nu and Gurugram in Haryana. So what happened? People's houses were demolished. So demolition of dwellings means houses, business establishments of people. They are all accused in this case, but their houses and all houses, business, everything was demolished. So the author is basically telling this is not following the procedure established by law. So this is procedure established by law. You might have read this in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 in polity. So he's telling you are going and demolishing all houses and offices. This is anti-constitutional. this is unconstitutional because this is not procedure established by law. But what is telling one good thing has happened, that is Punjab and Haryana High Court interfered in this matter. It took judicial notice suo moto, that is on its own it took notice of it, and they stayed the demolition drive. And what's more, the High Court asked, are you doing ethnic cleansing? So what they're asking, are you targeting a particular community and are you targeting them? So that is what the High Court has asked, and they have told this, and they have asked the demolition drive to stop. So let's see what the laws, international statutes talk about it. So ethnic cleansing is not defined in the Indian Penal Code or international law. First, where did they use it? The UN appointed Commission of Experts. So it was chaired by who? It was chaired by Professor Cherif Basioni. So he is the father figure of the international criminal law. So this committee was set up to look into the war crimes in Yugoslavia. So in its report, what they have told about ethnic cleansing: a purposeful policy designed by one ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian population of another ethnic or religious group from certain geographic areas. So I hope this is self-explanatory. I hope you understood this. So, and the commission is telling how this ethnic cleansing will be done. It will be done by state actions like arbitrary arrest, detention, destruction of property, forcible removal, displacement, deportation of civilian population, and extrajudicial executions. And the list goes on. So they are telling these are all coercive practices that constitute ethnic cleansing. But so see, you don't find this ethnic cleansing in Constitution or Indian Penal Code. But what this author is telling is, despite lack of statutory recognition, that is, no law in India recognizes ethnic cleansing, but whatever the government, state governments are doing is against the fundamental rights guaranteed in the Indian Constitution. So he says it is right that the judiciary has intervened under Article 226 of the Constitution of India. So what is Article 226? It is what Article 32 is for Supreme Court is Article 226 for High Court. So using this, the judicial intervention was done. So here we'll see like few important terms are there: the law and procedure established by law, due process of law, rule of law, and rule by law. So the author has discussed a lot of such terms. We'll see what those terms are. First, the demolition drive was carried out without demolition order and notices. So this, they are telling it is violation of procedure established by law. This is arbitrary action. Next, what they are telling, Article 21 of the Indian Constitution commands that no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to the procedure. So this is there in the Constitution. Now what has changed? Now in the Maneka Gandhi case 1970, what the Supreme Court is telling, it is expanding the scope of procedure established by law, and it is telling that it's not just procedure established by law, but such a law should be fair, just, reasonable, not fanciful, oppressive, or arbitrary. So through this, they came up with something called the principle of procedural due process, or the due process of law. So despite such an expansion of the scope of Article 21, what the author is telling, it is a constitutional travesty, which means it's a constitutional tragedy that the elected representatives, elected governments are not paying attention to the basic principles of Constitution. So next, this is very important. This they might ask in mains itself. What is the difference between rule of law and rule by law? So rule of law is a basic feature of Constitution. Rule by law is just the opposite of it. What does rule of law means? Rule of law is a government run by law, not by men. So the roots of the idea of rule of law comes from Article 39 of the Magna Carta. So who issued this Magna Carta? It is the King of England. In 1215, he issued the Magna Carta. So how is rule of law declared there? Defined there: no freeman shall be taken or imprisoned or disseized or exiled or in any way destroyed, nor will we go upon him nor send upon him except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by the law of the land. So they're telling this civilizational journey only has found its reflection in the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and later the Supreme Court has expanded it. So the author is telling this rule of law is a progressive journey. But when does it get reversed? When rule by law comes into play. What is rule by law? So this is very important. You pay attention to it. So what is rule by law? Rule by law is when the law is used as an instrument of suppression, oppression, and social control in the course of implementing a political agenda. So the administrative act of demolishing dwellings, business houses, issuing, and they are doing it all this without issuing notices and not hearing people who are affected. They're telling all these are rule by law. And now he's telling, elected officials itself, they are telling bulldozers are part of treatment. So he's telling this is wrong. And in fact, he says the Punjab High Court had in their verdict, in their statement, they had put this statement in it. So what he's telling is the courts should do more of this. So verbal and non-verbal threats issued by the elected ministers should be condoned, because they are bound by the oath of office and they can't make threats like this. So what is the path to justice? He's telling, see, people who are creating unrest in the society, you treat with them, but you do not do like this. Only those who create problems, you give them punishment. That is using colorable exercise of power. Is those who have done wrong, you go and punish them. But what you are doing, you are demolishing the house. Then what happens? His family is becoming shelterless. Neighbors are becoming shelterless. You're saying don't do that. Next, what is happening in Haryana? Administrative exercise means the state government is doing demolishing the house and all. What villages are telling is, they're telling economically you boycott the other community. So here what happens? Fraternity is getting affected. What is fraternity? Brotherhood. So even Dr. Ambedkar has said fraternity is very important for India to survive as a nation. So he's telling those things are getting affected. So this, if this keeps on going, he's telling fraternity is a cherished constitutional ideal. So it will never become a reality in India. Fraternity will never become a reality if this keeps going on. So finally, you see, it's a very good quote that the former Chief Justice Bobde has given. He's telling justice must never take the form of revenge. So when did he tell this? Because the police have shot dead an accused. So he told that to them. So he's telling the states should not persecute on the basis of religion, because then the constitution suffers a breakdown. And courts should more and more, they should stop all this demolishing, hate speech and all those things. And he's telling only if the constitutional courts prevent this, the hope of the republic also will be safeguarded. So this is a very important polity article. I hope you understood this. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about the scientific survey that is going on to be conducted in 𝐂𝐴𝐴𝐵 and what are its limitations. So firstly, what has happened on August 4th, the Supreme Court told the Archaeological Survey of India to do a non-invasive survey. So this is the important term. So in prelims they might ask what non-invasive survey is related to what, like that. So they are telling to do the non-invasive survey in the 𝐂𝐴𝐴𝐵 mosque in Varanasi. If you do this non-invasive survey, you will know if the mosque is built on top of a temple. So what has happened? So the matter has got political implications. So what we as students should, so the author is telling, we should know what are the scientific methods that are used in such surveys, what are their abilities and their limitations. So what is telling, archaeology has over the years, since it is having all these social and legal complexities, it has found itself confronting, embraced modern scientific methods including from physics, molecular biology, geology, and anthropology. So a lot of complexities they are having. So they have come up with new scientific methods, physics, molecular biology, geology, anthropology, and so on. So archaeological investigations are normally performed in open spaces along with excavation, where scientists have the option to use both ground and airborne systems to identify and test targets. But what is happening in case of 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝑚𝐽, the investigation is being undertaken inside a built structure, and excavation is not permitted. So experts, geophysicists, they must depend on non-invasive methods for earth scanning, because if they use invasive methods, what will happen? They'll have to damage the existing structure. So the methods that they are using, they are adapted from those applied in geophysical mapping. So they may be active or passive. So what are the active methods? Active methods inject energy into the ground and measure the response of the buried target at the surface. So for that, they'll have to use seismic and electromagnetic techniques. But what passive methods will do? They'll have they use methods such as magnetometry, gravity surveying, or they simply measure the existing physical properties. So in both the cases, what happened? The methods provide an estimate of the ground's material properties, such as density, electrical resistance, and wave velocity. Then what they are done, they are then interpreted in terms of the possible nature and geometry of the target. In the case of 𝐻𝐽𝐽, what the scientists are doing, they are looking for distinct physical properties of the subsurface material constituting the structure. So they're saying if the subsurface is different from the mosque that is on top. So many earth materials could have the same physical property and generate the same response on the surface. So this will lead to ambiguity in interpretation. So ambiguity means confusion. So in response, what the geophysicists are doing, they are using multiple methods and different physical properties of the earth's material to arrive at a reasonable characterization of the target. So what is telling? The author is telling, so it is expected that those involved in the survey, they would have considered all these things. And what is telling? Media reports are suggesting that the Archaeological Survey of India is going to use ground penetrating radar to produce a 3D model of the buried archaeological features. So now let us see what this ground penetrating radar is about. So what this GPR does, it operates by introducing a short radar impulse from a surface antenna and recording both the time and magnitude of written signals reflected by the property contrast in the subsoil. So what has happened? Significant over the years, there has been technological advancements. So improvements in the instrumentation have allowed large amounts of digital data to be collected along closely spaced parallel paths for detailed analysis and imaging. So, but the radar beam spreads out in a cone from the transmitter, similar to a smoke ring. The buried object will reflect part of the beam before the antenna passes directly over it. In such a situation, what will happen? A part of the signal may bear little relation to the physical dimensions of the subsurface target and create false images. So what is an important aspect of the geophysical survey is to infer physical parameters from the complex and voluminous data required. So this requires a good understanding of physical processes and powerful data analysis and modeling program to generate reliable 3D images. So since the archaeological object under investigation is made of heterogeneous materials with complex geometry, this object is simplified in the form of a representative model with well-defined and finite parameters. So in general, what they're telling, the law of physics provide the means to compute some data given in the computational model. Only in the ideal case does an exact theory exist that prescribes how the data should be transformed in order to reproduce the model. So what they're telling, in most cases, including the survey being conducted by the Archaeological Survey of India, the mathematical framework assumes that infinite and noise-free data will be available. But what they are telling, however, the data will always be limited and have measurement errors. So it may not be possible to estimate in a unique and stable manner the spatial distribution of physical property in the subsurface. So as a result, supplementary information needs to be incorporated, and this will give meaningless results. So this is well recorded in the field of geophysics, and even in all the textbooks talk about these things. So even data from sophisticated lunar penetrating radar systems analyzed by different authors and published in different journals have reported contradictory interpretations. So despite its inability to reconstruct the images of targets in the best possible manner, geophysical tools have a high success rate in resource exploration. But in case of a failure or partial success during the exploration of natural resources, the loss is merely financial. So it's right. See, you're just looking for natural resources. There, if the loss is there, then it's financial. But here you're going to do a temple versus mosque. So here the emotional and sentiments are involved. So in such cases, nothing should be left to chance. And GPR or any other geophysical method has its limited abilities, and its findings must be interpreted within these contours. During data analysis, interpreting, and decision making, experts as well as the people need to bear this in mind. So he's giving some cautions with regard to how this ground penetrating radar should be used. Now let us move on to the next topic. In this article, we'll see about metagenome sequencing. So first, the author starts by saying that if there is one global life-altering event of a generation, what is it? It's COVID-19, obviously. So what is telling is the breakthrough during SARS COVID-2 was that there was application of unbiased genome sequencing technologies to infected patient samples. So when infected patient samples coming out, scientists started doing genome sequencing. What the scientists did not do was they did not go for the more time consuming microbiology route. Instead, they went for something known as genome sequencing and bioinformatic analysis. So this helped the scientists quickly identify the virus. So this new approach was called metagenomics. So this was not only rapid but also could be deployed directly on patient samples without having any knowledge about the infectious agent. So the scale of sequencing during the pandemic was so large that SARS-CoV-2 is one of the most sequenced organisms in global history. So the technique and its adoption also drastically changed the world. How pathogen identification will be undertaken thereafter. So what they are telling here is not just COVID, but hereafter, if any pathogen identification needs to be done, it will be done based on metagenomics only. So next we are saying about this genomic technology. So what scientists in a lot of countries, what they are doing, they have developed a lot of technologies based on genome sequencing. So for genome sequencing, what is the most popular tool? It is COVID-seq assay. So people are using this only in several nations. They are using this for genome surveillance activities. So what it is? It is COVID-seq assay. So GISAID. So you all know it's a popular repository on the internet to which genomic sequencing of COVID will be submitted. So this portal itself is a testimony to the fact that how high how intense genome surveillance has been done for COVID. Next, the importance and impact of the way SARS-CoV-2 was being surveilled also become evident when national and international organizations started implementing public health policies based on genomic data. So now, what has become countries are doing health policy based on genomic data. This has become after COVID-19. So India also has started the SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing surveillance program, and even state governments are also doing it. So the success of the genome sequencing has resulted in what? People are applying the sophisticated genomic technologies. They're using this to surveil known and unknown organisms, and even if there are any emerging pathogens are coming, that also people are able to identify using this genome technology. How do we know this? There was this Nigerian study in that what they have found. They have investigated 593 patients. So you see what they have found. So the first cohort represented the population level surveillance of individuals representing with systems consistent with Lassa fever, and second had people who had infectious etiologies, and third people consisted of any undiagnosed conditions. So what the scientists were able to do, they were able to identify 13 distinct viruses affecting the individuals, and this genomic approach helped them to pinpoint the second and third documented cases of human blood associated virus among the cohorts. And not only this, the scientists also identified Peggy virus C as common co-infection in patients with Lassa fever, as well as the presence of Peggy virus C, which was associated with a lower viral load in patients. Further investigations revealed the presence of yellow fever virus and mpox virus in patients. So this shows what is the power of genome sequencing. So the metagenome sequencing approach helped the scientists to rule out viral infections in some individuals, and their symptoms were linked to pesticide poisoning. So what is this showing? It is showing the power of metagenomic sequencing investigations for pathogen detection and disease diagnosis, and how you can inform public health outbreak responses. So you see how even the avian influenza was done. So in 2022, the world witnessed the global mpox virus outbreak, and this mpox outbreak was attributed to a super spreader event, and this even threatened the planet with another epidemic, but it fortunately fizzled out. What was the reason? One reason is that scientists were able to apply this genome sequencing technologies perfected during the COVID-19 pandemic to understand how this came about and what is causing the spread of this mpox virus. So avian influenza virus is another prime candidate for surveillance, as they also trigger seasonal outbreaks. So what is very challenging is the nature of the host. They are very highly mobile and migratory, right? Because they are birds, including both wild birds and poultry. Even avian influenza viruses are capable of causing mass deaths in birds and animals. So quickly it will spread like that. So these outbreaks are outbreaks. What they do, they pose risks to human health as well, human livelihoods, because poultry people have it, and for biosecurity also. Because in the past, what has happened, avian influenza has also spread rapidly to humans. See, even though rapid detection kits and vaccines are available for this influenzas, you will have to complement them with well-organized genomic surveillance programs so that scientists can identify which virus strains are circulating, as well as monitor the impact of vaccination. So the worldwide deployment of large-scale genome sequencing infrastructure during COVID-19 is helping us. How they are helping us? They are helping us to conduct avian influenza genomic surveillance at source itself. So what happened? Scientists working at Institute Pasteur de Cambo in Cambodia demonstrated how powerful the surveillance has become when they successfully decode the full sequence of the Cambodian H5N1 virus in under 24 hours. So they are telling this meta genome only is key to early response. So what they're telling you, you start these initiatives for other seasonal pathogenic viruses such as Zika and dengue. So recently, what experts are telling, experts are using genome sequencing technology as a frontline tool itself, because they feel once they detect and surveil the disease, for example, let's say the lumpy skin disease of cattle, they tried it, and what happened? They were able to stop the emergence of drug-resistant tuberculosis and so on and so forth. So the author is telling it is good that several initiatives worldwide are taking advantage of the speed, accuracy, and the high throughput nature of advanced genome sequencing technologies to detect pathogens from diverse environmental sources such as wastewater, oil, air, soil, and animals. So, since genome surveillance provides the sort of information that experts can use to devise an early response strategy, what they should do is they should identify emerging viral strains and undertake risk-based surveillance, of key animal species, genomic technologies are likely to become very, very important, because in our fight against pathogen, they are only going to help us the most. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about Indian mission in London. So the UK government is telling that they are taking necessary measures to ensure the safety and security of Indian High Commission in London and its staff members. So why they are telling this? The Indian High Commission in London was attacked by pro-Khalistani forces, which has led to strain in bilateral ties between India and UK. So what the minister has said is that the British government is addressing India's concern over activities of pro-Khalistani elements. So what these people are doing there, they are radicalizing people in the name of religion. So what is telling? See, I'll be very clear about it. This is not just an Indian problem, because wherever there's radicalization in UK citizens are only getting radicalized, right? So that is a British problem only. So it's telling any attempt to radicalize any citizen of UK will be dealt strictly by the British government. So it's telling we have something called as the Prevent program, and using this, those who are facing challenges of radicalization, they will be dealt with. So what has happened in March? India reacted angrily after the Khalistanis attacked Indian High Commission in London, and in fact they pulled down the Indian national flag. So finally, he's telling the External Affairs Minister that they are closely working, and things like this will not happen in the future. So next, what is telling that they are spending 95,000 euros to enhance Britain's capability to tackle the pro-Khalistani extremism. That is 1 crore they are going to spend to end this pro-Khalistan extremism. And next, they also talked about extradition of Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi. Next, this legal process is going on with regard to extradition. Next is telling legal process will go through. We'll make sure justice is done, because UK government is not going to become a place where those who are seeking to evade justice can hide. So he's telling that. Now let us go on to previous year questions. So who was Annie Besant, responsible for starting the Home Rule movement? Yes, the founder of Theosophical Society. No. Once the president of Indian National Congress. So answer is C, 1 and 3. Which one of the following industries is the maximum consumer of water in India? Thermal power. Priority sector lending with banks in India constitutes lending to all of the above. Disguise the unemployment generally means marginal productivity of labor is 0. So I hope you liked it. You can share it among your friends, comment in this video, and subscribe the channel. You can also follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Telegram, and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in.